Sup nerds, I'm Tom.
I'm Wes.
I'm Aaron.
And we're playing a game about a TV show I've never watched.
Is there a TV show called Tudor?
Yes, there is. Disclaimer, this is not based off of the TV show. It just has the same name and the same boring theme.
In Tudor, there is a big map with lots of dry artwork that you get out of a lot of these types of games, but there is a lot of really interesting choices you're making with you kind of have this semi-worker placement at the beginning of the round, and then you're taking actions and moving up. You're trying to get into these seats of council, which give you rings, and once you have all the rings, you control the power. Lord of the Rings.
Well, you just have to have the one ring.
Yeah, that's true.
I said Thanos, but those are just stones. He doesn't they don't wrap around his
Spoilers,
fingers.
guys! Come on!
And it's kind of like the Power Rangers, or no, not the Power Rangers. Captain Planet. You get all the rings.
Oh yeah, but it was everybody had one ring. Oh, did anybody ever get all the rings in the one show and be like, ah?
So they're signet rings showing that you have the favor of this person and you can make decisions instead. Mm-hmm. So having the different rings allows you to move to different places. The board has a bunch of colored tiles on it, and having that ring means you don't have to pay to move into that space
for certain actions.
Yeah. So the rings actually, and it might be some of the cards, because, okay, there's the basic rules of the game, and then there are different scoring options for end game and during game scoring, and then there's different bonus actions you get to do. So there is a lot of variability. You get to choose any combination of these three, of red, green, and blue different cards. Mm-hmm. But at least within the core mechanics of the game, the rings actually aren't that much of the focus. They are important for some things, mm-hmm. but because this hand screen and everything, everybody looks at it, they're like, whoa, what is that? They think that it's all about the rings. You want to say it?
Nope.
It's about the cones. You know you wanted to say it.
It's about the cones.
It's semi-incidental to the other actions you're doing.
And actually, even when you do start to talk about this, the colors of the rings don't even matter. It's just having them in certain finger positions
can unlock the hands. Pertaining to the hands, it doesn't matter what color is where.
Yeah, it's just...
It doesn't matter if I put the blue one here or there, but having the blue one is somewhat significant to this.
Yeah.
So how are you actually doing this? We're going to be... At the beginning of the round, you're going to place your little worker guys outside these rooms, and then they all file in single file, and if there's not enough room, they shove the first person that got in there out, so that can happen in the later rounds. And then, after we've, got guys seated in these different rooms for these different actions, we each have a lord that we'll assign to a room. And in a 3-player game, this came up a bunch where wherever a lord is assigned, we'll actually activate all of the meeples in that room. But if nobody assigns a lord there, then all the meeples that have been assigned to that room just kind of lose out on their actions. So there was a couple times where Wes would place a guy and then Tom would place a guy. I'm like, okay, so no matter where I go now, one of these rooms isn't going to activate because you guys both placed in the same room.
Right. Well, because placing a lord is not just this room is going to activate. That lord is double action.
Yeah.
So I want to take 2 actions in this room because each room represents 2 different actions. So it could be Wes puts in this room because I want to take 2 actions there. I say, I also want to take 2 actions there. Yeah. But then Aaron's like, okay, so I'm either going to take 2 actions in this room or 2 actions in that room. And, one of these clumps of our meeples isn't going to trigger. However, in a 4-player game, that happened a bit less. Mm-hmm.
Because there's still only ever 3 rooms. So
right. And I that is probably going to lead to my first complaint is I do think this game is more the merrier. Mm-hmm.
It's up to 4, right?
Yeah, up to 4.
So essentially, the different actions in the different rooms either have to deal with getting cards or deal with moving. You can move based on, in the first room, there's a spot where it's if you have a green ring, you could move into a green spot, or blue ring, blue spot, or whatever. But if you have cards, spending that card lets you move into that space with that icons. So you're like, okay, I'm down here at the bottom. I'm going to spend, I need next to green. You spend the green to move into the green space.
Yeah, because that's how you move up all the tracks.
Yeah, so most of these other 2 rooms, you can spend, X amount of cards depending on which room you're in. The last room, 1 to 7 cards. If you just stockpile a bunch of cards, you can run all the way up to the top of any row if you have the right combination of cards.
I will say this game, one of the things that surprised me about it is they're like the production quality is pretty cool, like the hands and the rings and the ring holder. And so you have like all of that going on, and then you have like the 3 different chambers going on that you're assigning guys to.
Mm-hmm.
Like the real bulk of the gameplay is like this little section of the board right here. And that was something I had to kind of like wrap my head around. Was like, okay, so this is just kind of like your worker placement of, and not even like you're taking a place, but like I'm going into this room to have the options of these actions.
Mm-hmm.
And like the rings is really just how you modify these actions, and the rings I tell you how you can move. But the bulk of the gameplay is trying to get guys on this board and then move them around and move them up the tracks that will get more rings, unlock more things. So this is the most of the actual like gameplay going on there.
In our game, it was really important to get to the top because of the scoring card we had. It was like, if you get to the top, you score points for getting to the top of that row. If we were playing with the other ones, there's like one for, at the end of every round, each column scores points for whoever has the most in that column. You get 6 points. So like,
But
I
still,
feel like that
both
makes
the gameplay is still
exactly
right there.
But like, it's not just about getting to the top. If you change that card out, like it kind of changes the flavor. Like you might want to have just more guys out there versus getting all the way to the top. Even though the top, getting more rings is always good.
I bet you if this game was made like 10 years ago, these wouldn't be different cards. They would just be, it's always just get to the top for the points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I really do like that they added that variety. I think that's great. But on to another complaint real quick is the special abilities. So where you have these rings will augment all the actions. And actually, it's really just, okay, the A action, instead of reading that symbol and that's what the A action does, I read this symbol and this is what the A action does for me now. It's not that big of a deal. Like, it does definitely help. It's definitely good. I'm not going to ignore it completely, and sometimes I'm like, ooh, it's a little bit better. But it's just that. It's like a little bit better. Again, I kept thinking that, like, ooh, once I have this special ability and that special ability, I'm going to be freaking unstoppable. It's going to be like, boom, we're going to be doing all these crazy swings. But really, it's like, no, ooh, I get 2 cards and discard 1. It's better, but it's not game-changing. Especially, again, because these are such a big focal point of the game. It's like, whoa, I want to know everything about these creepy things, Again, which creepy or cool? Is that... You like it, or are you like, ooh, I'm afraid that thing's going to come to life at night and try and choke me?
Yeah, and I felt like with them, like, you're like, if you could have all of them, it'd be super awesome, but you'd have to have all 5 rings.
I ended last game with all of them.
Yeah, but that was like the very end of the round. Like you want them all right away just to have those like slight benefits. Because if you had all of the benefits, then it'd really be worth it. But
I think that part of those benefits not being huge, though, is this was definitely a game where I felt pretty starved most of the game. Like, everything I wanted to do, I never had enough to, like, really get what I wanted. Or, like, to do something that, like, felt substantial, like, wiped me out.
However, you can always discard 2 cards for 1 card, and you can discard 2 of the tokens, which, at least in our game, were points at the end of the game. Or actually, no, all of the end games have to do with those being points. You discard 2 tokens to move 1. However, you're right. So there are options to it. It's never just like, oh, I don't have the one thing that I need, so I'm screwed. There are options, but a lot of the times it's like, you're always like, I'm using my whole hand, and now I'm down to 0
That's what I'm saying. It's like, by the time I got there, it was like, well, now I have nothing again. So I worked for like a round or 2 to make this play, and now I'm at nothing.
And giving up points if like you're giving up these tokens to make
and
additional
like,
moves.
a lot of times I gained a ring from it and a good bit of points, so now I'm a little bit better to do the next thing around. But and not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's part of it just being like a crunchy Euro that you really have to like be careful and budget your cards and like plan ahead. And I think it was a little bit too much of that for my taste. Not that it's a bad game per se. I just prefer something with a little bit more luck.
It's more plentiful.
Yeah.
I think this game does a really good job of doing what it wants to do. We're having like the whole like struggle of like getting your people in the right places to get you the power you need. Like you kind of feel like you're trying to like infiltrate this. I guess it's a king's. Whatever.
The royal family.
Yeah, the royal family. Like, you need to have people in this, here to help you do these favors, and people over here to help you with this. Like, you need...
Did you realize that these have Lord High Chancellor,
Yeah.
Archbishop of Canterbury? I did not see that.
Because you're sitting over there. But yeah,
It would have been right side up to me.
You don't care about theme at all either. You're like,
That's true.
You're trying to get the top. I don't care why I want to get the top. Just I want to get the top.
that's true.
That's all I need to know.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
Unless
so-
there's dragons, it's
Yeah, so like this is the highest chair. That's the biggest lord. Like yeah, so there's definitely
the biggest lord.
Yeah.
The chair's so soft. We gotta get to that chair.
and the game stays pretty tight the entire time. Like the mid game scoring things. Like it felt like whenever we were scoring mid game things, it was like oh we're not really getting that far ahead of each other. I don't know who's gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the end game scoring like. Everybody has tons of those tokens unless they've spent them all to get extra movement. But if they did do that, they're probably got to the top a bunch or, won, like they keep it tight. They keep it well.
Feels very balanced.
Yeah. Like I enjoyed it.
I kind of feel like throughout this review, maybe it sounds like I'm negative, mainly just because I said my negatives about the game pretty early. But I really actually, that was unintentional because I really like this game. I don't think it probably isn't like, game of the year. It's not amazing, but it's definitely a lot of fun. It's definitely a game that I would play anytime somebody offers it to me. There's a lot of games where I'm like, I need to be in the mood to play. I'm like, I just don't feel like doing that right now. But this one, hey, it's very crunchy. Yeah, like you said, very tight. Lots of good choices, lots of options, lots of things to consider. The different modes actually blend well together. All the different cards, I think that's great. My only complaints is that I wish this was a bigger deal. I wish this was like more like the abilities were more, like, whoa, he's got that. That's crazy. And the theme, of course, the theme and the artwork is just, like the artwork isn't bad. It's not like, the artist is a bad artist. I'm just like, it's just not me. It's not me. And I don't think it ever will be. I'm never gonna be like, that looks so cool.
It's not a comic book.
It's not a comic book.
Or no dragons.
No dragons, or no Captain America riding a dragon.
I definitely agree with you guys. I think that it's a solid game. I definitely enjoyed playing it. I got the strategy of it. There was fun stuff to think about. You have to plan out your actions, and there's like cool stuff you can do. You get to wear all these fun rings. Like there's a lot of really great stuff here. It's not my favorite game ever, but it's not at all like I don't want to play that game. So like it's probably not a game that I would go like grab off the shelf. But it's also if somebody else grabbed it and said, "Hey, let's play this," I'd be like, "Absolutely, let's do this. I'm excited about it."
Do you want to talk about that?
What?
He just did it right then. I was like, oh, I should have said that.
Yeah,
It is. The player screens, like, I think like these tabs should have been a little bit longer, maybe to make them heavier to hold them
They
down.
should have had little spikes that go into the table and down like that.
And even like these abilities, I felt like because the player screens angle backwards a little bit, unless like you're playing with a table, it's almost level with you, and even then it's kind of dark. Like it's kind of hard to read these abilities. You kind of have to like pick your screen up and like do this, and then if you're really trying to be secretive about what's behind your screen, you don't want to. So those are the nitpicky things, though. Like the gameplay itself, A+, I think.
And it's short. Like a lot of big Euro games like this feel like they drag on forever. Like this was pretty quick.
Well, if any of what we were talking about in this video sounds interesting to you, we're going to put a purchase link to this game in the description box down below. Go grab yourself a copy.
And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to our channel.
So you'll never be bored.
Yeah. It fell down again.